The light on the third floor had been left on again. It was the kind of detail most people would never notice, or would notice only once and immediately forget. A single square of warm yellow in an otherwise dark building. Nothing remarkable about it, except that the building itself had been empty for nearly 2 years. I noticed it because I walked past the building every evening on my way home. The street had a rhythm to it, the bakery closing at 9, the bus stop clearing out by 10, the same delivery truck idling too long at the corner. The old office building sat between these routines like a pause, its windows dark and reflective, except for the light. It first caught my attention on a Tuesday. I remember because I had stayed late at work and the air had that thin, tired quality it gets after a long day. Halfway down the block, I looked up automatically, as I always did, and there it was. 3rd floor, 2nd window from the left. I assumed it was a mistake. Someone had forgotten. It happens. Lights get left on all the time, especially in buildings no one thinks about anymore. The next night it was still on. I slowed my pace slightly, long enough to be sure I hadn't misremembered. Same window, same soft glow. No movement behind the glass. By the 3rd night, curiosity had crept in. Not the sharp kind, but the dull, persistent sort, like a song you can't place or a name you know you've heard before. I stopped across the street and watched. Nothing happened. No shadows passed. No flicker. No sign that anyone was inside. It was just on. The building had once belonged to a small accounting firm. My father had worked there briefly when I was a child, long enough for me to remember the echo of the hallways and the way his shoes sounded on the tile. I remembered being told to sit quietly in the waiting area, the receptionist smiling without quite knowing what to say to me. That firm closed years ago. The sign came down. The doors were locked. The windows went dark. Or so I thought. On the 4th night, I crossed the street. The front door was locked, as expected. I leaned close to the glass, shielding my eyes from reflections, and peered inside. The lobby was dim and dusty. A dead plant sat in the corner, its pot cracked. The directory board still listed offices that no longer existed. I tried the handle, though I knew better. Nothing. I walked around to the side alley, where a service door faced a row of trash bins and a humming electrical box. That door was locked too. I listened, holding my breath for a moment. Silence. No voices. No footsteps. Not even the faint hum of fluorescent lights. That night, I dreamed of corridors that never ended. Doors that opened onto identical rooms. Lights that turned on by themselves. The next evening, the light was still there. By now, I had developed a habit. I checked the window every night the way some people check the weather or the time. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was only a light, but I noticed it all the same. A week passed. Then another. The light never changed. Until one night, standing across the street with a paper bag of groceries cutting into my hand, I saw it click off. Not dramatically. No flicker. No delay. Just off. The window went dark, blending seamlessly with the others. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the building as if it might explain itself. Didn't. The light did not come back on that night. Or the next. The building returned to what it had been before, a dark shape on a familiar street. I felt an unexpected sense of disappointment, as though something unfinished had slipped away without asking permission. Weeks passed. The habit faded. I stopped looking up. Then, one evening near the start of winter, I glanced at the building out of reflex. The light was back. Same window. Same warmth. This time I laughed, quietly to myself. There was something almost stubborn about it now, like a private joke the building was telling. That night, I decided I would finally do something about it. I arrived earlier the next evening, just after sunset, and waited across the street. I watched the window as the sky darkened. Nothing changed. When the street grew quiet, I crossed over and rang the doorbell. To my surprise, someone answered. The door opened just enough for a face to appear, an older man with round glasses and a puzzled expression. "Yes," he said cautiously. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. This might sound strange, but I was wondering about the light upstairs. The 3rd floor. His expression softened immediately. "Oh," he said, That. He opened the door wider and gestured me inside. The lobby smelled faintly of dust and lemon cleaner. I suppose it does look odd, he said. I keep forgetting people can see it from the street. Are you working here? I asked. Not exactly, he said. I'm the night caretaker. Been here longer than anyone else, really. He led me toward the stairwell. As we climbed, he explained. After the firm closed, the building was left in limbo. The owners couldn't sell it, but they couldn't abandon it either. Someone needed to check on it, keep the pipes from freezing, make sure it didn't fall apart entirely. That someone was him. I come in a few nights a week, he said, mostly to read. We reached the third floor. The door to the lit room was open. Inside, the space had been cleared of desks and filing cabinets. In their place sat a small armchair, a lamp, and an old folding table stacked with books. I leave the light on, he said, almost sheepishly. Helps me remember which room I was in last time. I looked at the window. You forgot to turn it off, I said. He nodded. Every now and then. He paused, then smiled. Well, he added. To be honest, sometimes I don't forget. I like the idea that the building doesn't feel completely empty. I laughed. A small surprise sound. That's all? I asked. That's all, he said. Before I left, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small notepad. On the cover, written in careful block letters, were the words, "Light on equals still here." I suppose I should be more careful, he said. But I kind of like knowing someone noticed. The next night the light was off. And the night after that. Weeks later, I passed the building and saw something new taped to the inside of the lobby door. A handwritten sign, slightly crooked. Reading room open. Wednesdays after dark. I smiled. The light still comes on sometimes. But now, when it does, I know exactly why. And somehow, that makes the street feel warmer than it ever did before.